residents about that.
You want to hear from?
Yes.
I think we
Yeah.
should hear from the
I don't
applicant.
know.
Oh, no, of
who
course.
purchased it.
Were you one of the
No,
original ones in the subdivision, way back in 75, 76?
Right.
Yeah. So you have a little more history to it than we do. Why not?
My name's Mike Moriarty. My wife and I own 6 Russ Lane, and we've been there since 1980, I guess, 81. And I'm just kind of surprised to see this raise its head again a little bit, partly because of this memorandum back in 2000, because this has been around quite a while, and the threat, so to speak, of the lot being sold or developed, has been out there. But anyway, my understanding is that because it was created back in '78 and was part of the original subdivision plan, there are so many covenants connected to the subdivision, and this piece of property was supposed to be basically a tot lot. When Richard Hammer originally, developed that subdivision. And basically, it says, Mr. O'Leary said all the owners were paying a little portion of the taxes. One gentleman was kind of overseeing it, and then kind of lost control of organizing everybody, getting the money together and paying the taxes, and then ultimately it was let go. It went into foreclosure, and the town took it, I guess, for non-payment. But there's a lot of wetlands there. And as I say, I mean, I could describe the lot to you, but my understanding is there's so many covenants connected to it, and so many, they just don't go away. When something was accepted originally as a subdivision with all these conditions, I don't think it's, maybe anything's possible, but my understanding is that nothing could be done with it. At least that's been my understanding all these years.
Just one of the things is, of course, when it was all subdivided and all planned out, the best laid plans, the intended purpose was also to have the town generate some sort of tax revenue on the parcel, through the trust paying taxes. And yeah, it was 6 acre tot lot, but it was supposed to remain for recreational purposes, for enjoyment of the people of the subdivision, I suppose. So now the question comes, the board now has possession of it, nobody's paying taxes on it, I don't know what the annual taxes were on it, do you recall? How much we took it for, but, so at some point, the assessed value of it, I think, was reduced significantly because of the covenants. But regardless, the town hasn't been realizing any revenue from it. So now we're in a quandary as to, okay, what do we do with this? Do we keep on holding it and get nothing? Or do we sell it to an abutter with the restrictions and the covenants still in place? In other words, it can't be buildable, it can't be this, it can't be that, and we'll have to have access to it. If someone wants to buy it, but at least it gets back on the tax rolls. It certainly wouldn't be my intent to allow any type of building to take place, because that was part of the original subdivision plan. The intended purpose was pretty clear. So we have 2 choices. The town either continues to retain ownership of it and get nothing out of it, or turn it over to recreation and maybe potentially have them put some paths in there or whatever. At some point, they don't want it?
No.
But,
They said somebody told me there were a lot of issues with, sometimes there's a little bit of Linfields involved there because of the adjoining wetlands. Also, there was one department in the town, because of possible future sewer system in the town, that there may be some interest in keeping that parcel open for whatever reason.
put in some sort of pumping station, transfer pumping station or something like that, but I'm not sure that the deed restrictions would allow us to do that.
Right.
What's it, or even leaching, right? Discharge area?
But originally, was it considered like cluster zoning, and that parcel it really wasn't as much meant to generate tax revenue as much as it was to maintain open space?
My guess is usually the developers at some point say, I've got 6 acres that I can't do anything with, so And I don't necessarily want to saddle, the owner of lot 46 or 53 with additional 6 acres of land for tax purposes, so let's just cull it out and say it's a tot lot. And, that's generally
Yeah.
what happens, right,
Now
Chris?
the planning commission would have them create a homeowners association, which has a little bit more teeth than what I believe you folks were in. You weren't in a homeowners association, so
No.
there weren't annual dues that you had to pay, and there was some teeth to make you pay them. So it was kind of like, yeah, everybody kind of bought into that, and then the guy that was controlling it either passed away, left the area,
Lost interest,
got exhausted, he couldn't do it anymore, who knows? And it just kind of fell by the wayside, and then we picked it up to continue, making that property, continue to pay the taxes on that property.
Would, and again, you're one property owner, if we were to sell this to an abutter, whether it be the gentleman who's inquired about it, or someone else, with all the restrictions that are in place, would there be opposition to that?
It all depends, like the note I said, you mentioned, my note, I said, who ensures the deed restrictions are written properly? That seems like a big if. If the deed restriction isn't written properly, we're down this road again. And so I'd be against it personally, no matter what, but, because things change, I guess a few years ago, they talked about it going to the Conservation Committee, and that never happened, and that's probably the only reason this is, if it went to the Conservation Committee, if it became, if they oversaw the piece of land, then the issue wouldn't come up again, I guess.
Yeah, if it became conservation land, then,
Right.
yeah, then there's
But
no
to be-
revenue coming to the town, and as far as what would happen there, it'd be absolutely nothing would happen there.
Right.
So,
But there's no if you look at the map, of course, in addition to the 20 feet of frontage, there's no parking. There was never any parking for the tot lot. There was never any way to access it except for a footpath. That's what the original plan was. But again, that never happened. Peter, do you want to add something? I'm done. Does anybody have a question for me at all about it? I have quite a bit of the original documentation when the subdivision was created by Dick Hammer and, the planning committee at that time. Like there's a document here from the Conservation Committee dated March 27th, 1978, which spells out what the purpose of the lot was, and it wasn't supposed to change, and it was supposed to, just stay exactly.
Did it talk
open
about this
space.
trust and this association that was paying the tax?
Yes.
I would like a copy of that, Greg.
Well, we need it as a result of our new,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I wasn't able to find anything on it.
Okay.
Um,
I have quite a bit of stuff, and I will Xerox it, and who should I pass it on to?
just bring it down to town hall.
Okay. All right.
We're required Selectmen's now that anything is formally introduced into our meeting, that we have to include those documents in our minutes.
Okay.
That's under
yeah,
change
but
to
that
the
would be
state
great if
law.
you could provide that to us.
I'll do it this
Any
week.
additional insight.
But before he sits down, I just have two questions.
Yeah, sure.
So back then, how many homeowners were participating in paying the taxes?
17.
17. And now, are those 17, I assume there's been some turnover?
Probably
but so
about
on.
half.
Is it, they're completely against ever paying, getting back on track to controlling this property, paying the taxes on it? And then this issue goes away,
Yeah.
I would assume, if you guys just
Right.
resurrected the.
Either that, or
homeowners
form an
association.
association that we could.
Something formal you guys could create, and maybe we could give them some guidance or whatever, and then you have control of the process, then you have control of the land.
Right.
Then the intended purpose as to what's, and again, you're saying that most of the, most if not all of the 17 deeds have some sort of reference to it?
Yes,
Absolutely.
they all do.
They all do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we could, if you people could resurrect your trust and form a legitimate association whereby you accept the annual assessments,
As intended.
as intended, then we would have, then you would be an entity that could bid on the property when we put it out up for
Right.
bid,
We can survey them, and
And again, I don't know what were the taxes annual? Or what was
I
the,
didn't see the original taking amount.
Steve, why would they have to bid
I
on
didn't
it?
see it.
Why don't we just go ahead and,
Because they don't own the
because in order for
property
us to
anymore.
dispose of it, I think we have to do public
When it was
bid.
taken over, it
Public
was
bid and deem it to be in the public interest.
$275.
yep, okay, that makes sense, but, okay, well, then we can work with them.
Transparency.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anything-
I mean,
anything else?
ideally, you know, the intended purpose is what we'd like to see,
Right.
which would again put it back on the tax rolls, which means the town would be whole again.
Right.
And then, you know, otherwise, you know, if this gentleman had an interest, with all the covenants that are, you know, restricted, and we could assure that that's what would take place, then again, it'd be back on the tax rolls of,
Do you remember how much it was? I think it was something like, it was small money.
It was either, I recall, my name's Peter Colosi, I'm in a butter too. I'm Mike's next door neighbor, I'm on 5 Rust Lane, which is at the bottom of the cul-de-sac. So the access road that you referred to is the one that goes between Mike's property and my property. The taxes we used to pay, $47 is ringing a bell, but I
Yeah.
think that was 2 times a year.
Right,
So
I
it
think that
was,
was it.
so it's $100, so it'd be $1,700 a year at the time,
Mhm.
Excuse me,
Something like that.
yeah.
I'm reading here that in 1994, that the remaining taxes was $274, $275.
But the land was taken in 2000, so those taxes and fees.
No, I
just-
understand that, but it's still, I think that's a small amount.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't have a structure to it, so it really has no
Right.
value, so it's at no value.
And kinda, everybody gets what they want.
Well, that would be resetting the clock back to when it,
Right, you set it back, but again, what we need, we meaning the town, is we need something with a little more teeth, so that the people who are have access to it under, by right, under deed, is somehow forced to pay their fair share and have an entity that will be responsible for.
Is, Nick, would you be are you one of the people who's part of the 17?
No, he's on Park Street.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's up,
Yeah, he's over on the
you're
other side.
Park Street, right? What- Yeah, yeah,
You-
right, he's never
Okay,
18.
yeah, I see him.
It's amazing.
Gentlemen, if I could add a little bit to the history. The tot lot that we are referring to, that was, from my recollection, planned for about an 80 by 100-foot area. And that would have been back on some of the scant uplands that are there, to give access by what is now a road, but at that time was gonna be a walking path. And that area is very significant with respect to wetlands, and with respect to the surrounding area. For example, there's a storm drain up in Linfield coming from North Hill Drive that is feeding part of that wetland. As well, Park Street, which is on the Park Street East, which is the perimeter and access road to get to North Hill Drive, to get to Rust Lane, is much higher in elevation there too. So there are a lot of benefits in terms of water management and the presence of that wetland that have some pretty important benefits, I think, to the town in terms of what happens to the water course there. There's significant water running into that area.
But someone said there's a drainage easement there somewhere.
There certainly could be,
Yeah.
certainly could be. There's water running under several residences there. I think this gentleman mentioned that, you know, once an area begins to be developed at the edge of a wetland, the wetland loses some of its functional values. So I'm not here to, I'm just pointing that out, that there are some benefits there to keep that property intact for
That-
some
that
other
twen-
reasons other than
That 20-foot
financial.
access, did you say, is that now paved? Is that now
It
a
is
road?
between Michael's property and mine it is,
What's
yes.
it just give you access into your?
Well, there's a
Like a lots-
driveway, if you look at the
is
plot
it?
plan,
Here's the map we have here.
there's a driveway that goes out to the lot behind our houses, which is
53?
53, right. And his driveway is to the right of my house,
Which
lot,
one- which
our
one's yours?
house,
Which one's yours?
52.
52.
52,
And
okay.
Peter's is
46.
46.
Okay,
So the footpath is to the right of the driveway leading up to 53.
right.
And that's paved.
The footpath isn't, but the
Is not.
driveway is.
Oh, right,
but
okay.
the driveway's not
on
That's
that
not in the way.
property.
No,
It's
no.
on,
No,
No,
it's owned
okay.
by,
All right, so it's still a footpath, it's still,
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
okay,
doesn't exist, but that's what it.
right, okay, so it's